wonderful Mr. Robin Derrick. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I think it's safe to say Robin's had a career any of us would, well, dream of, really. Quite possibly Britain's most successful photographer. He was creative director of Vogue for 19 years, creative director of Giorgio Armani for another 5. You created the most watched YouTube video starring Megan Fox, which I love, amazing. What inspired you to, from the very beginning, what inspired you to go down the fashion route?
Oh, that's quite easy, if a little embarrassing.
Embarrassing's good.
So I went to art school, and I'm from Bristol. The first slide is Keynsham High Street, where I'm from, and just a classic, kid that was into art and did foundation and got into, and I didn't know I wanted to do fine art or photography, actually, and I'm a sort of jumped up graphic designer, and I sort of chose graphic design because I thought I could take pictures and I could do drawing. I didn't really realise it was a discipline in itself. But anyway, I chose graphic design. I turned up at St. Martin's. I managed to get a place in St. Martin's because the girl I was going out with on foundation left me for a guy that applied to St. Martin's and didn't get in. So, in order to prove that she had made a mistake, I applied to St. Martin's and got in. That's why I applied to St. Martin's.
And did you then go out with her?
What? No. And when they said, everyone do fashion, go that way, they all went that way. And they said, everyone doing graphic design, go that way. And all the kind of geeky boys went that way. And I thought, I need to be over there. Yeah. And so what I did was, they did a thing in those days called the St. Martin's Alternative Fashion Show, run by a guy called Perry Haynes, who was actually one of the founders of ID with Terry Jones. And anyone in the college could design clothes for this fashion show. It was a fashion show. They stopped doing it. It was a great thing. It was a St. Martin's thing, and any student in St. Martin's could design clothes and send them down this alternative fashion show. So basically, in order to hang out in the fashion department, I decided to make some clothes to send down the runway in order that I could go, can you help me sew this up? Really just to kind of... And my father was an artificial limb manufacturer. So I got him to make some Perspex balaclava helmets, because he could do that kind of stuff. And I made these kind of it actually looked like Doctor Who outfits more than fashion. And I went and I hung out in the fashion department and I did this fashion. And then I had this really good idea that why don't I take a camera backstage and photograph the models as they come off stage and get them published, which is what I do now for Tom Ford, by the way. But this is like, we were doing that then. So photographing the models coming off stage, and then took those pictures, the director of the show took those pictures to Terry Jones at ID magazine, who published them. And he was the art director of Fiorucci, and I was working with like early sort of Space Invader graphics, and he needed somebody. So I got a job with Terry working on Fiorucci, and then I started working on ID, and then I fell in love with magazines, and that was it.
How did you make the sort of transition from being a photographer to becoming a creative director, and why did you choose that?
I actually started as a photographer. Well, I was some sort of jumped up graphic designer, as I said, but I did a lot of photography. And actually it was Terry at ID said, well, you either stay in the office or design the magazine, or you go out and take the pictures on the street. And it was cold and wet, so I stayed in the magazine and sort of worked on the magazine. And then, so I was actually kind of, could have gone either way early on, but actually chose the art direction. Then regretted it because photographers were earning way more money than me, and I was like stuck inside magazines. So then I sort of cheated and commissioned myself to shoot for the magazine, which was cheeky, but anyway. So I sort of built a career as I was quite a successful beauty photographer for a while. To be honest, I found it a bit boring, actually taking pictures. I think the art direction and the turnover of art direction, I mean, the most boring thing I have to do now is go in a studio and take 6 pictures of a girl. I find that so dull. And I very rarely do it, so really it's like I'm making a film, maybe there's some stills, maybe there's a social piece. I like big, complicated, multi-channel campaigns. That's what I enjoy now, and so I want to move on from that. I think originality, I tell you what I think, it's hard, it's hard. I think having a tone of voice, having something to say, and I think that's true about the photographer question as well. There's so many look-alike-y stuff. And actually, you know, when I was at Vogue or any of the magazines, people would turn up and go, here's a portfolio of work like the work in your magazine. I said, well, I don't want to see you because I have the people that do the work in the magazine. I need people that are going to, I think originality, tone of voice, not tone of voice, actually a voice, having something to say, opinions. Because believe it or not, they're still quite rare, people with opinions and a point of view. You know, a million people can print and, you know, it's interesting when everyone does the statistics and they say products do well in social. Well, products do well in social because if you show someone a picture of a lipstick, they go, oh, nice lipstick. If you show a picture of a girl, they go, not, you know, it's an opinion thing. But ultimately, so if you just take likes, people just post pictures of lipsticks. But that's empty, you know what I mean? Because it's like, it's very easy. Just because someone goes, oh, nice lipstick, that doesn't mean anything. I think real engagement, being broad, actually maybe not worrying so much about numbers, but the quality of who you're talking to, having a point of view, speaking to a specific audience, whether that's a, you know, goths or, you know, or I think the way to be successful is have a point of view on a subject, be specific, be an expert there. I think the generalists are lost. As good as I can do, I think, on that.